It's been 4 months since Tom Cruise was first welcomed here with traditional Maori music and the blessing of local leaders. Now, with filming about to finish, it's clear that life will never be the same. This region, once known for its dairy farming and natural gas industry, has a new nickname. Taranaki's had a bit of Tom Cruise mixed in, and it's now known as Tomanaki.
Welcome to Tomanaki.
Welcome to Tomanaki.
Excuse me, sir, what do you think about the fact that Tom Cruise and The Last Samurai have been here in your town?
Well, I think it's absolutely fantastic. He's created an amazing impression with his presence here. You know, I think people realise he's a human after all.
Yeah, it's been wonderful for the economy. I think everyone's got a bit of positive energy over it and excitement for the region. We've been pretty lucky, actually. I'd encourage more movies to come here. It's been wonderful, really great.
Tom Cruise, The Last Samurai.
Despite all the hype and positive talk, though, there is evidence that some locals have become tired of the whole thing.
Oh, too many people.
Too many people?
Yeah.
It's been a bit of a pain?
Yeah, yes and no.
But it hasn't brought in good things for the local economy?
Well, that I don't really know. Yeah.
And what do you think of Tom Cruise?
Not really a big fan.
No? So if you saw him on the street, you wouldn't blink twice?
No.
You wouldn't go and say hello?
Well, probably not. No, just carry on doing my own business. Yeah.
Ancient Japanese villages have been built here and hundreds of extras brought in. The region's impressive cone-shaped volcano, Mount Taranaki, was also seen as the perfect fill-in for Japan's Mount Fuji. Early on, there were claims that some indigenous Maori people weren't happy about the use of Mount Taranaki in the film, unless there was financial recognition. Local officials claim this concern was exaggerated and there was wide consultation with local groups. In any case, the producers say it's possible they may decide to superimpose the real Mount Fuji into the film. The long hours of filming in urban and rural locations came with promises the local environment would not be spoiled. And when it came to daily disruption, the local mayor, Peter Tennant, admits the filmmakers were virtually given a free hand. He insists, however, that people were happy to accommodate them.
The point I made very loud and clear is that, hey, listen, you decide to film this movie in this district, I am going to ensure, and my council is going to ensure, that you find this the most film-friendly place you've ever been anywhere in the world. It is a case of getting rid of red tape, buying into the big picture, and the public have bought into it. There have been no complaints about road closures. There have been no complaints about having to take a bit longer to get your builder or your plumber or some of the basic services because everybody is so busy in this area.
And there's nothing like being buttered up. The film company reportedly gave flowers to residents who found their streets closed off. Others talk about what they call the Tom Cruise factor, his ability to get people on side. Knowing all about public relations, he recently phoned up a local radio station out of the blue.
On the Morning Madhouse. You on 94.
Yeah, can I talk to Jason or JJ or Dom?
Speaking, is this Tom Cruise?
Yes, it is.
Holy
my
shit.
God.
The station had earlier offered to pay a large amount of money to anyone who could get Tom Cruise to phone them. A local school ended up receiving a much-needed sun shelter, half the money from Mr. Cruise, the other half from the radio station.
Hey, let me tell you, this is a beautiful country. I have to. It is gorgeous. The set, location we're shooting at, it just looks unbelievable on film. People have been so good to me and my family, and it's really been a real pleasure.
Tom Cruise made the headlines for other good deeds, stopping to help someone change a flat tyre and giving money to a local anti-drugs program. 12-year-old Ben Riley was one of the lucky ones who met him. His friend lives next door to the film star's rented countryside mansion, and the boys were invited for a chat over the fence.
It was sort of a shock, and me and my mate just sort of to start to laugh, and we didn't really know what to say.
And did you know who he was at the beginning?
Not really, and then we heard his American accent, and he said his name, and we shook his hand, and then we sort of clicked.
But not everyone's been so lucky. Have you guys seen Tom Cruise?
No.
What do you think of Tom Cruise?
Oh, he's cool, yeah.
Why is he cool?
Just the fact that he's like a star, that he's come over to this small town.
Don't you think he's pretty funny though, with a beard and his long hair?
Yeah, probably would with the long hair.
I think it's fantastic. I haven't actually seen him, but yeah.
Have you been trying to see him?
I wasn't one of the women who bared my breasts in the helicopter. No.
$74.95, thank you very much. Great. Okay.
It's estimated filming brought into the region between 28 and 110 million US dollars, with restaurants and businesses making a killing from the large crew and extra tourists. John Soul runs a local craft shop.
Definitely an upturn in business. Of course, this time of the year we get a lot of tourists around, but with the film here, the American spend has been A1, definitely much better.
Somebody I've discovered in the street is actually the mother of one of the main actors, Shim Pei, who's in The Last Samurai, and you've come to New Zealand from Japan to visit your son and to see the set.
Yes.
Now, he has a special thing to do in the movie.
My son kicks Tom Cruise.
He kicks Tom Cruise.
And then Tom Cruise kills my son.
Then Tom Cruise kills your son. That's not very nice for your son.
No, never.
This may sound like some kind of ancient tribal ritual, but in fact these are scientists using stones and their voices to make a Phil Dadson art installation. The recording took place in Antarctica's remote Taylor Valley, where Dadson came across a glacier which was ideal for creating echoes. He was relieved when the scientists he was travelling with agreed to take part.
I went back to camp and all the science team sitting in there kind of telling yarns and kind of a way of spending the late hours of the evening, sharing jokes and so on. And it was a pretty nice atmosphere, but, you kind of got the sense that this was something that had become part of the the repertoire, the routine, of being there. So I suggested, hey, why don't we get out and actually, I've got an idea, an echo piece I'd love to do. It was about midnight. Would you guys help me? So the whole science team got in behind it. It was amazing.
As I stand here, I mean, this landscape is so prehistoric. I mean, it's like being somewhere at the very kind of dawnings of evolution or something, because stone is what it's about here. Stone and ice. It's, I look across at this Garwood Glacier, and there's a boulder that's kind of tumbled beneath the actual face of the glacier. It's coming straight off the mountain.
As well as his art installations, Phil Dadson is known for this kind of music. He's a composer who builds his own instruments. In the early 70s, he founded the group From Scratch, which has used the likes of stones, PVC pipes, and even a kitchen sink in their performances. For this new project in Antarctica, Dadson found that he had his work cut out for him.
For a sound artist, it's true, there is not actually a lot of sound, particularly if you're away from the bird and animal colonies, which I was. Really, there's very little there, apart from the occasional colossal sound event of a glacier carving or an ice lake creaking or groaning or the glacier groaning. It's dynamic and kind of, the presence of it is just here and now, and then there's nothing for yonks, nothing happens. And I went out trying to record this stuff actually at nights. You put out a mic for a couple of hours on end and get very, very little. You turn it off and boom, something happens. So it's, very unpredictable.
What's totally unique here is that apart from the motion of air, wind, there is no other sound. But the flowing of the water. So you hear the water as water, with no other influence particularly.
The Artists to Antarctica programme offers New Zealanders a few weeks on the ice before returning home to work on a project inspired by their experience. It's hoped the artwork will promote understanding about the importance of the region. Previous art fellows have included poets, painters, composers and sculptors. While the region does provide ample inspiration, Phil Dadson says the freezing conditions made practical work difficult.
I think one of the primary challenges for any artist is actually to do with how you interface with the equipment you take down and the cold, because you're dealing with 0 and sub-zero temperatures at nights. I mean, this was summer, but it would still get down to about minus 14 in some instances. I was very nervous ahead of going in already about how my gear would survive in those conditions, but amazingly, it went perfectly. I didn't have any problem. The other is just the sheer kind of energy level to do stuff, when you're tucked up warm in bed, it's kind of sometimes a little hard to get out.
It was also important to stay alert. Dadson was glad to have a tripod to use as a lever when he got into a spot of bother trekking through some soft sands. He also found that good boots are essential when walking over the glaciers.
Oh, God, slippery. Just about went for 6 then. It's kind of ice that just kind of turns into snow. I mean, with a very hard, icy, crusty surface, and I do have my snow boots on, but not really much good for.
It was worth the effort though when Dadson reached a gully that contained what he calls a garden of stone gods, looking like the work of some of the great 20th century sculptors.
It's like a gallery of Hepworth sculptures, Hepworths and Moores. Curvaceous, elegant, aesthetically beautiful, and I went into there and it was like entering a temple. You don't want to leave a footprint anywhere.
Phil Dadson is now sorting through his recordings, working out how he's going to choreograph his art installations.
I recorded about 10 hours of video sound material, some of which I think is extremely rich in content. And a lot of it is to do with dynamic, primal, colossal kind of landscape forms, that I want to kind of treat in various ways in video and sound. I mean, one of the things I like about composing, and I suppose, treating the video a little bit like a kind of compositional process, is the possibility of creating long lulls of where very little seems to happen, and then there'll be very sharp dynamic shifts and changes, and, almost like shock elements come in, both in sound and image.
Oh, God, slippery.